Is Super Smash Bros. A fighting game? A question that has puzzled philosophers since the dawn of time, and honestly, I can think of better brain-tickling queries. Sure, it's mostly played on one-on-one scenarios with very little hazardous influences, but on the other hand, I doubt that the fan item makes for a healthy meta, so something needed to change. Enter Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and with it comes the Final Smash. Fighting games have super moves, and this is a crossover with all your favorite Nintendo characters, and then some.
Oh, well, maybe I'll reconsider.
It's a no-brainer, and an extra opportunity to add more fan service. Generally speaking, a game about beating the crap out of the woman or child of your choosing would be incomplete without one big mega attack to finish the fight. And fast forward to now, to where we have over 80 characters, some of whom have had their final smashes change between each installment, and a pea-brain jackass that only feels satisfaction from taking a large quantity of stuff and ranking them from worst to best. There's no real criteria I have for ranking all of these. Some final smashes are great references to other games, some are great damage dealers, some are pretty to look at. Realistically, if I picked one set criteria over another, we'd have drastically different rankings on our hands. In other words, I wish I had something better to say other than this is based solely on my own personal preference, and if you agree or disagree, feel free to leave a comment down below. And while you're at it, like the video and subscribe if you want to be notified of future uploads. But oh well. And why not? I'll divide each section of this video into tiers as well. Anything to make me babbling about the cultural impacts the Mario finale had in comparison to Byleth's progenitor god ruptured heaven at least slightly more tolerable. Let's go, boys.
Kicking things off is the awful tier, meaning I would not teach my son to be like any of these Final Smashes. Funny enough, this is by far the shortest tier in the video, only consisting of 5 Final Smashes, but again, keep these away from your kids.
It's one thing to be useless, but it's another thing to be useless and transform you into an F-tier character. I get that it would be wildly unbalanced to have Power Suit and Zero Suit Samus have the same transformation dynamic as Zelda and Sheik, so a transformation-based Final Smash sounds cool on paper. However, aside from maybe a decent bit of damage when used in super close range, transforming into a shittier version of yourself is all that this move does, which is frankly inexcusable given the inverse dynamic doesn't seem to have that problem. Sure, that's because Samus using the Backstreet Boys laser means that she's used so much power and exhausted the suit, but come on, man. You could easily do something like have the parts fly towards you like an Iron Man scene, and that would be infinitely more viable. Okay, fine. There are a few niche scenarios where you would want to use Jigglypuff's Final Smash, and yes, it does contribute to a hilarious glitch in Brawl, which alone saves us from being dead last. But I don't know about you. If I had to come up with specific use cases for a move to be good, then that makes the move kind of not good overall, huh? Why in the gosh darn diddly fuck would you make Dark Pit's Final Smash just a clone of 2 other Final Smashes from characters not even in the same series? Okay, wait a sec. We drew Dark Pit with a staff, even though he doesn't actually use it. Yeah, sure. I don't expect Dark Pit to have a carbon copy of any of Pit's other 2 Final Smashes prior to this point, but even Dark Pit's copied Final Smashes have already been shifted. That doesn't make it unique. It just makes you behind the times, old man. For as much as I appreciate how Ultimate sought out to streamline the Final Smash, I would be lying if I said it benefited everybody. And in my opinion, Sonic had the worst of it. It just doesn't do enough. I would forgive it more if it was like a Volt Tackle where you would have to catch the opponent first and then do a guaranteed amount of damage, but you would have to be lucky if Super Sonic and Ultimate had any impact in the fight. And in a vacuum, I would forgive removing the temporary transformation Final Smash if they hadn't turned one of the most fearsome beasts into a joke. Giga Bowser is one of the most iconic aspects of Smash. He's fucking menacing and has so many deadly attacks, but his iteration in Ultimate is just a singular punch. This irritated me so bad I wanted to put it below Sonic's, but at least if you even land the move, which is less likely than you might think depending on who you're going up against, it does a sizable amount of damage at worst and a guaranteed KO at best, so I guess that means we found the best worst Final Smash, fellas.
Now on to the bad tier, and for the Final Smashes that aren't the worst.
Oh wow, you get an opening for a single smash attack, and that's assuming the opponent is at a decent enough percentage to stay asleep, let alone work at all. I appreciate the utility of spawning Peaches to heal, but again, sometimes the Final Smash won't even work, meaning that even your opponents can heal off of your own move. Meaning, this is one of the few Final Smashes that can actually backfire under a decent amount of circumstances. It did get buffed in Ultimate, but even still, you're likely for it to not result in a KO more often than so, I guess. Honestly, the only reason Daisy's version ranks above Peach's is that it was at least terrible in 1 game as opposed to 3. But that doesn't change the fact that you're now eating flowers as opposed to fruit, and they say Daisy fans are an alpha species. Oh hey, it's like Mario Finale, but worse. Oh hey, it's like Mario Finale, but worse, and has Wii Fit PNGs. Oh hey, it's like Mario Finale, but worse, and has a doctor forcibly overdosing your opponent. I appreciate the hustle, but a dinky laser that slowly moves from the center of the screen that, for the most part, doesn't even get to reach the opponent, kinda reeks. If you see See a Lucario attempting to get its final smash? Your win con is just moving the opposite way, and bam, you just experienced a waste of seconds. Ice climbers can climb the ice, so sure, let's just summon Titanic's worst predator. It's at least not as functionally useless as Jigglypuff's considering the damage output, but even still, summoning a giant hunk of ice is really lame, and they can't even climb this ice, so yeah, bad. Points for being able to control it and summoning the iconic Ice Climbers characters, but even still, not much has changed. I mean, it's at least a bigger laser now, and Lucario Mega evolving is a nice touch, but you know what they say, if you suck but put in the effort, you may suck a little less at some point. The Mario Sunshine reference is Pogger, but even when you boil it down, you're just looking at a big X that doesn't do much to sway the fight in your favor. Okay, this is stupid now. Triforce Slash was cool when Link revealed it, and was a little disappointing, but kinda understandable when Toon Link did it too, but we've milked this cow to hell, and now it just looks like a raisin. Link at least changed it up, so I can at least understand if one of the Links could keep the Triforce Slash, since it is a cool move, but apparently we can't have a Smash game without at least two Links having the same final Smash now, huh? And I think it especially falls on Young Link the most, considering he had 17 years to pull from one of the most iconic Zelda games of our time. But no, it would have been insane if we had a fierce deity transformation, or maybe seeing the moon fall on the battlefield and Young Link using the Song of Time to escape while everyone else gets obliterated. But you know what they say, if it makes sense, no it doesn't.
Ladies and germs, we scraped through 1/8 of the Final Smash catalog, and we're now in the mid-tier, because that's how fractions work, yeah?
Maybe this is an ultra-epic Xenoblade reference I don't get, but I'm sorry, I just can't get over how the move starts off promising with a pretty nice cinematic, only for it to just cut back to the same gameplay POV for some laser light show. Like, it couldn't decide to be cool or lame, so I guess it just ended up as both if you think about it too hard. Same here, but Fire is nice, so I'm a petty idiot. If I had to be objective, this is worse than Pyro's Final Smash, but my expectations weren't nearly as high for a Street Fighter character's second Final Smash as I was for brand spanking new DLC characters. Plus, it's way quicker so it doesn't waste your time, but a Fire Pillar is still pretty lame, gotta say. Chrome's Awakening does get points for the quirky camera work, but loses points for being a lame move. I mean, I guess credit for also not being a fourth critical hit, but at that point it would have been way more interesting reference to Awakening rather than just a dude jumping back and swinging his blade. Credit for not having 3 Links using the same Triforce Slash, I guess. Surely I, out of 7 billion people in the world, wouldn't be the only one who thinks that this is a massive downgrade, right? Sure, it's a very neat and unexpected reference, hence why it's at least not in the awful tier for basically being another Giga Bowser punch. But even still, when you think of a character getting an improved Final Smash from 3 Sacred Treasures, there's an entire fight with Hades you could pull from. And I don't care if you can classify that as a spoiler, Sakurai's been doing that shit since forever, even with Ultimate's first gameplay demo. Oh hey, it's like Zero Laser, but mediocre. I mean, it's different, but removing Waddle Dees entirely? Yeah, not gonna fly with me, Buster. Power Star can be disgusting if you use it optimally, hence why it's a little higher up, but even still, there's like 0 wow factor for this one, which is almost a crime given the game she came from. Okay, so, in doing my research for this video, I just went to the Final Smash page on the Smash Wiki and went from there. Now, the funny thing here is with characters like Rosalina, we have 2 Final Smashes, even though functionally, they're the same. Now, I would just ignore that, but then we have some characters that look like they have the same Final Smash just because the name's the same. But no, so this caused a long internal conflict that lasted 30 seconds. I ended up saying screw it, and that's how I ended up with 2 Power Stars, and more relevantly, 6 PK Star Storms. This one just looks like sperm eggs laced in LEDs. Get the freak out of here. Credit to looking like a PK Star Storm and being a good move sometimes. Apparently, they had to change how the PK Star Storm works for Smash 3DS and Wii U due to the limitations of the 3DS. The more you know. I'll be real, I don't even remember off the top of my head why I had the Lucas PK Starstorm from Super Smash Bros. For 3DS and Wii U up above the NES PK Starstorm from Super Smash Bros. For 3DS and Wii U, but it is, and we just gotta live with that fact. Now, this is the ultimate version of PK Starstorm. It combines the randomness of the original from Brawl with the slight control you get from the 3DS and Wii U versions, on top of that extra bit of fan service. It's still okay. This final iteration has a dog, and it's not in the top tier. Why? I don't know. Something about the killer whale just never did it for me. I appreciate the extra utility of still being able to control the Inkling, but it just being another laser, yeah. Yep, this is a black hole laser. They did it. Yep. Yeah, if you were to give me a ranged Final Smash for Ryu, I would also give him the Shinko Hadouken, but it is still a bigger Hadouken, and that's real. I miss Transformation Final Smashes, and yeah, I think Mega Lucario is better than either version of the Aura Storm, but that doesn't really change that Mega Lucario is by far the least impressive Transformation Final Smash. I mean, it's neat that you have access to Max Aura, but when your competition is Gigamac, Wario Man, Giga Bowser, and what have you, Moving on. See, I would be annoyed at the fact that this is the third Landmaster Final Smash, and from a character that has never canonically used it before. And yeah, it's kind of stupid, but the Landmaster is fun. It makes a match super chaotic when you have to avoid a giant tank firing big lasers and flying you off the map, so I'll be generous. Everything I just said goes doubly for Falco. I would like the idea of Pikachu turning into this massive giant ball of electric madness a heck of a lot more if it didn't control like trying to guide him through a glue trap. I don't understand, but it's at least kind of fun-ish. Honestly, more generic than in Brawl. I mean, at its core, it's another laser Final Smash, but at least the laser forking off for some reason looks cool and different, and there's one last hit at the end. I still don't understand. How Rob gets so many laser moves is so weird to me, but credit where it's due for visually and functionally being the best of Rob's Final Smashes. I don't know why, but I really like the detail of Rob firing the giant green laser that just suddenly gets bigger for no reason other than to say, fuck you. Well, this is another sometimes useful Final Smash. I can at least say it's more justifiable than Lightning Chariot, so sure. Light Arrow's a pretty good Final Smash, but it makes very little sense for Sheik to use it, though I understand why, given that Sheik's only one half of the Zelda heckery, and I figured coding different Final Smashes to load mid-match would have been AIDS during the mid-2000s, so sure. Yeah, I don't blame a near-exact rip of Kazuya's Tekken 7 Super being his Final Smash, nor would I really blame it for being another laser move that at least takes a few creative liberties, but at the same time, I don't know. This is the second to last Smash character, and I expect maybe a little more pizzazz. Aside from the ironic comedy I get from the name and the softest PNG, I gotta hand it to him. They sure did rupture my eyes with the confusing camera work in that last shot there. I almost put this in the bad tier because it's another case of taking a genuinely cool Final Smash and downgrading it to be another move where they take your opponent at the top and beat the shit out of them. But the image of Meta Knight with 4 wings goes so insanely hard that I had to put it near the top of mid tier alone. Sure, it's a Mario World reference, but it's not like it's an easy assumption to make. I don't know, it just kind of looks like they gave Yoshi wings and called it there, but it's at least kind of fun to use. Mega Charizard X is a pretty blatant clone of Super Dragon, but I can at least give it props for being a more obvious reference and at least having another attack other than Fire move. As I said, having Toon Link also use the Triforce Slash was kind of disappointing that there's easily plenty of material they could have pulled from with the 3 games that he had the damn move, but it is at least a good damn move and in my opinion less egregious than Young Link. Why out of everything this was Kirby's first Final Smash will be a mystery Sakurai will take to his grave, but at least not doing the obvious pick can sometimes work in your favor, and I think it's okay here. Maybe Kirby has had other big boy moves, but you know, letting him cook isn't a bad thing per se. I just wish it was a little more consistent with how it works because oftentimes this move does jack. Part of me is pretty bummed they didn't pull a Giga Bowser and just straight up have you control Beast Ganon, but at the same time, I take a look at this and don't think, man, what if? Now Ocarina of Time Ganon, that's a big man. But it's not like you could ever control Beast Ganon anyway, so I wasn't super let down, especially after they have already neutered transformations anyway. Plus, he does a big sword swing right before the big rushdown, and that's neat. And capping off, the mid tier is the middiest Final Smash to have ever mid. Yeah, Mario Finale is kind of generic, and you would have to stretch to say that it calls back to a move from Mario RPG, but it is something I would believe Mario would use if he had to use a big super funnel big blast attack. And it does get a few extra brownie points for being the first ever Final Smash revealed. Part of me wishes Mario would get a power-up based Final Smash, but at the same time it devolved into heated gamer arguments about which Mario power-up he should have used, and frankly, I don't care.
The good tier. Finally. Content.
I won't lie, I wish we got something a little more extravagant for the finalists of Final Smashes, but given that it's like a huge motif for Kingdom Hearts, at least as far as I'm aware, I don't know, it feels like they literally closed the door on Smash speculation, and for that, I like it. It's a pretty cool subspace reference, and I think that's neat. I just wish, again, there was a little more to it. That's going to be the bulk of this tier, I hope you know. Kinda similar to the Landmaster and Triforce Slash situations where it's pretty lame on paper that the exact same Final Smash was spread across multiple characters, while also somehow the original ranks way higher, but also this Final Smash is really good for what it is. Just one big fuck you move with a Fire Emblem UI element on screen. You can even sometimes yoink yourself off the stage, and that's pretty funny. Plus, I can understand giving a Marth Echo Fighter the same Final Smash. Roy's at least has a little more pizzazz, so I can't really say it's stupid that he was given another critical hit Final Smash. So, the extra novelty does land this above Lucina's own critical hit, but doesn't really land itself above Marth's original critical hit because I just like that one more. Even though Marth and Lucina's critical hits are the exact same, me making YouTube videos is all part of God's plan. Thank Christ I managed to not have Bayonetta's Final Smash land at 69. Anyway, I really like how you have to land multiple hits on your opponent for it to even work and to mash the A button as well, but sadly that is also why I can't really place it any higher. It just feels so out of your way, given that how Final Smashes are, for the most part, just a pretty cinematic to look at. So if you live in nowhere Wyoming and had no idea you have to press more buttons to make Bayonetta's Final Smash work, now that I say that out loud, I don't even know how you got into that situation to begin with. Oh no, my actual 69th pick is like not funny. What a shame. Anyway, this goes into the bring all the boys subgenre of Final Smashes, and those are always a treat. Gets that little extra bit of fan service in there, and it also makes sense thematically because this is your character's big move, so calling in some help applies very well. It's just that the more I kind of think about this, the more confused I kind of feel. Like, okay, all the guys channel their power. Cool start. But then it hard cuts to them just standing there as the hero has all the power for no reason, then just spins around, and then just cuts to the impact. Alright, though this does get a ton of ironic enjoyment because inserting the in-game hero model on a cinematic means that in online scenarios, it can lag and it looks too funny to not put at the 69th spot. Thank Christ I managed to not have a Zero Suit Samus Final Smash land at 69. Visually speaking, it is a downgrade from her Smash 4 Super, and as I've established, literally anything is an upgrade over her Brawl Super, but it's a good compromise given the to-the-point nature of Ultimate's Final Smashes while also incorporating Samus' ship, so I can't be too fussed really. Now this is way more true to an electric speeding mouse tackling an opponent. Pretty epic. It is technically better than Pichu's based solely on the fact that you don't take damage, but even disregarding that, I more associate Volt Tackle with the medium-sized rat as opposed to the tiny rat. Oh hey look, it's the guys again. That's cool. They also just casually dropped a fat-ass Xenoblade spoiler during the reveal, which alright. Grand Cross is pretty nutty, I gotta admit. You just get put into a coffin, get slammed as you get pelted by a Christian's magical power. What's not to love? Well, it's only number 64 because my dumbass isn't much of a Castlevania guy. May he rest in peace. I don't know, Simon did it first, I guess. While controlling this Final Smash is similar to controlling a yellow rat through a glue trap, Octopus is so quirky of a move that I can't not love it. Just, you know, don't be a freak about it. Similar to its previous incarnation, but doesn't last as long, requires very little input, and the visual of getting yoinked off the screen by the most disgusting thing you've ever seen is too funny to not put in the good tier. Now, this is akin to trying to control a small monkey with a barrel jetpack and guns that shoot explosive peanuts through a glue trap, but it's a shockingly exhilarating Final Smash to pull off. Very fitting for the little guy. Oh, hey, look at that. Another Ultimate Final Smash that takes what the original did and streamlined it to make it just a little bit better. I know, how novel. It's so funny to me that the first Fire Emblem character to have a unique cinematic Final Smash went to goddamn Corrin. But let's also be real. Any Final Smash that has the user transform into a funny dragon and shoot a nasty whirlpool at the opponent would have ranked this highly regardless of who used it. If only they gave this to the Duck Hunt dog instead. Now, this is a much deserving summon all the guys and beat the opponent to hell Final Smash. There was a period of speculation of Nintendo vaguely announcing that an ARMS rep would kick off the second wave of DLC and an act that was obviously a promotional stunt that got people to talk about ARMS again at least. But no, it's a good compromise to anyone that wanted a particular ARMS rep in. And it's that sweet spot of being fun to look at while being as little as overwhelming as possible with all the funny arms rushing the opponent. Ah yes, a perfect nod to Animal Crossing as the Nook family build a house around your grave and then explodes. And it's a perfect fit for Isabelle given her secretary status and reskinning the house into the town hall. My one nitpick is that I always thought it was jarring to see the town hall being built since you'll hardly develop it at all in any games prior to New Horizons like you would develop your own house. But it is said nitpick that had to shove this at the number 56 entry in my every Final Smash ranked video. You see guys, this is how you use your Animal Crossing Final Smash. In a subgenre of, okay, we have Miis, we gotta give them something. Mii Brawlers was always going to be the best one in my opinion. Yeah, it's another pummel your opponent Final Smash, but I'd rather have 40 of these as opposed to 40 lasers or 40 shitty Mario finales. Oh hey, perfect timing. I guess the Sheikah imagery and the dark screen tone elevate this one, so yeah, let's go with that. Oh hey, perfect timing. I'll admit it's not really original, like look, it's a Triforce, that's how you know this is Zelda. But I gotta admit, seeing Link zip through in that Brawl trailer again, yeah, that cinematic alone landed a spot on the good tier. If only the Ultimate versions took notes. You see, this is what I mean when I dogged on Mythra, Pyra, and a few other Final Smashes for having generic camera work, because if the shots here weren't as insane, this would just be Terry using his specials, but they made it super badass here. Oh yeah, the original Big Laser Final Smash, and for some reason, none of the other big lasers managed to keep up with this one. That's a little strange. Ultimate made this move go way harder than it needed to, with the zooming debris in the background really selling the impact that you're getting lasered to death. I like using Dark Samus more, and the darker colors make this look more appealing. Alright, great. While this light arrow isn't quite as useful as Sheik's is with the launch angle, let's be real, this move made way more sense for Zelda anyway. This is a good compromise for a streamlined Snake Final Smash. Still has the Metal Gear look and feel to it while not lasting a million years, though not quite as iconic. Let's also be real, a Luigi's Mansion pull was always meant to be Luigi's Final Smash, and the sound effects where the opponents get yoinked out of the poltergust are one of those things you'd find in an oddly satisfying TikTok compilation. It's a different poltergust, and that's what Smash Wiki gave me, so that's what you're working with. Yet another good compromise Ultimate gave us. It's a Boxster that has the most fucked up looking man I've ever seen, so of course he'd have a beat the shit out of your opponent Final Smash. This is just the same thing. But wait, it's apparently a Jungle Beat reference, and that goes way harder than it has any right to be. But weirdly enough, I prefer Konga Beat. I don't know why I'm like this either. I guess the reference is much less of a stretch than just calling this a Jungle Beat reference, like, yeah, sure. Plus, pressing the button to the beat of the song was a neat choice, and it's not often you see a Donkey Konga anything these days. If only they played Boombastic instead, it would have easily topped the list. When it comes to guys transforming and just flying all over the place, nobody was going to do it as well as Sonic. It's the perfect mix of being useful and easy to control. Maybe if Ultimate's version wasn't so shitty, I probably wouldn't have put this version this high out of spite, but oh well. I'll be honest, I don't really know why they didn't make 3 Sacred Treasures Pit's Final Smash from the start, nor do I understand why they felt the need to change it. I mean, sure, you can argue Uprising wasn't even an idea when Brawl came out, but the Sacred Treasures have been a thing since the NES days as well. And sure, I complained that Ultimate's Final Smash wasn't the change I would have personally wanted, but that's only because that would have been the one change I would have been fine with in the first place. But regardless, this will always be Pit's most appealing Final Smash to me, thematically, visually, and gameplayally. Well, now this is epic. It's a nice callback to the finale of the original Banjo-Kazooie, and it's another neat case of summoning all the guys to beat the shit out of your opponent. I may be biased. Greninja beating the heck out of you silhouetted in front of the moon was always going to be a fitting Final Smash for him, utilizing Night Slash and the very niche Mat Block. Ultimate even added a little visual flourish of Ash Greninja because why not? I think the form has aged kind of weirdly, all things considered, but it's cool anyway, so I don't care. It's not often that you have any sort of mind-breaking techniques in most things, but Mewtwo's Side Strike really fit that niche. My one problem is that I wish it had the same approach as Mewtwo's Smash 4 trailer and showed a little cutscene of the characters getting mind melted close up as opposed to just normal gameplay, but this was like the one area where Sakurai was willing to reference anything beyond Superstar, and that's pretty funny. Even still, Return to Dreamland was, and arguably still is, the most iconic Kirby game we have yet. So its most iconic aspect was always going to be in Smash in some shape or form. Oh, and it is a cool move. I probably should have made that clear, huh? Can I call this a laser Final Smash, even though the laser only makes up a third of the move? Well, regardless, using 3 iconic Pokemon moves, Hydro Pump, Solar Beam, and Fire Blast, all at once is a very welcome addition for the Pokemon trainer. Even has a little text box reminiscent of the games, even though Ultimates is kind of a downgrade since visually the Alola games' text box isn't as Pokemon-y as Diamond and Pearls, but and capping off the good tier is the original Landmaster. Is it petty for the millionth Final Smash to rank this high strictly because they did it first? Yes. The Landmaster was always going to be most fitting for Fox rather than the other two, and it still makes for a chaotic atmosphere during the battle. Even regardless of how stupid it was for Falco and Wolf to use it, it's still an amazing move.
And now we're in the great tier, and I can't believe I have 33 children left to pick from!
I hear that Wario guys really gotta win. End of Day is one of those Final Smashes that only gets better the more you think about it. It's a great damage dealer, but more importantly, every second of it is a Pikmin reference. Olimar goes into the ship like he would at the end of the day, as the Bulborbs ravage on the ones left behind. Then Olimar even crash lands not only just like at the beginning of a new day for him, but also in the beginning of the game. They couldn't have picked a better Pikmin reference if they tried. I stand corrected. It's almost like the Punch-Out Wii devs made Gigamac solely because they wanted to have at least something for a Final Smash, whether Little Mac inevitably made it in. I still prefer this over Gigamac Rush, mainly because Transformation Final Smashes always have a soft spot in my heart. Even though his air maneuverability sucks, but what would you have expected? Never have yellow shapes felt so deadly, man. I don't know how they managed to pick something more brutal than literally getting shot, but they did it. What a charming callback to the NES Zapper games, all with an entire character being a callback to the NES Zapper games. I only wish this took place in a more vibrant Duck Hunt field as opposed to buttfuck nowhere, and maybe this move being easier to land, but it's still pretty epic. Ah yes, Vor. Nice. Ah yes, Vor, but with a slightly better callback given how you control Pac-Man in this one as opposed to him just zipping about, even though you can argue that this is a reference to the Championship series, but this is still more iconic anyway. Nice. Definitely not as impactful as the, like, 90 million other Shin Shoryukens we have thanks to the comfort character Ryu being in everything. But it is still a Shin Shoryuken, and by all accounts, it's still a standout in the Smash landscape. Sakurai had no reason to reveal this move right after parrying an attack in an Evo Moment 37 reference, but I think that alone put this higher than Shin Shoryuken. Yes, we can finally celebrate the Star Fox crew no longer having the exact same Final Smash by making another Final Smash spread across 3 characters. At least this one doesn't last as long and is way more true to the Star Fox series rather than just referencing a one-off mechanic that's only good in Smash. Fox did it first? Falco's funny air maneuvers made it more true to his character and more visually compelling. You have a big, goofy penguin king guy summon an army of guys that look exactly like me to a tune that can only be described as Dreamland's version of penis music. How did this not end up in the top tier? Well, it's either really freaking good or really freaking not. It's a gamble. But again, it's a Waddle Dee army, and I placed this way higher than I had any right to. But this is the Ty Final Smash, alright? It's literally just the Z move, but like a little more flourish, and that's freaking amazing. Honestly, changing it more would have made it worse. While this is a reference to, nothing. I always thought this was way more intriguing. I mean, who knows what goes on in this guy's head at all times? So to have a move where Luigi traps you into a giant, massive whatever that is as he dances to something that can only be described as Mushroom Kingdom's version of penis music, all the while a myriad of potential effects are slapped onto you. This is one of Smash's greatest enigmas, and by proxy, one of Smash's greatest things it's ever done. This is another original creation for Smash that went way harder than it has any right to. Just shrouding the screen in darkness before the big final slash is such an awesome idea for Meta Knight. And fun fact, Galaxia, the name of the sword, didn't actually officially get its name in the games until this Final Smash, meaning that they referenced Kirby right back at you for this one, as it was only referred to as Galaxia from there. That's pretty pogger, I gotta say. Yeah, Marth did it first. Great tier. This is the last move placed so high up just because it was the original one, by the way. Very similar to Ike's Great Aether, admittedly, but Robin's pair-up is still a phenomenal beat the shit out of your opponent Final Smash. And it was a nice compromise to Chrome's sitting Smash 4 out. All in all, a very nice callback to Awakening, with Chrome's portrait flashing and the emphasis of supporting units Awakening brought to the table. Now, this was a visceral way to end off a legendary character reveal. All this time, Ridley had been the butt of several jokes in the Smash community due to Sakurai's previous insistence of not letting him be playable, but he showed the world that things can change, and seeing Ridley knock the opponent to Samus' ship as it flies away, only for Ridley to fire a laser destroying you and the ship, perfectly encapsulates Ridley's savage demeanor. And you can even see the ship ablaze and careening in the background. From one iconic moment of Smash history to another, House of Boom captures the sinister darkness of the caves and mob spawns, as well as the overall whimsy of Minecraft by having Steve eat his lunch in front of your corpse. The first-person POV of the mobs, as well as being reminiscent of Minecraft. If you showed a Victorian-era kid that this was from Smash Bros., he'd probably call his dad to kill you. Like I said, anything would have been an upgrade over Power Suit Samus, but this one is just sublime. Sure, it's technically a copy of Snake's grenade launcher, but very few Final Smashes actually have the character take pot shots from a first-person perspective, so I will allow it. Oh hey, would you look at that? Sure, this lasts a very, very, very long time, but the innovation it brought to the series, as well as the utility of being a really good Final Smash, and the contrast in tone to whatever Scrimblows or Bimblows, makes this a hallmark for the Final Smash catalog. And finally, capping off the great tier, we have the Blue Falcon. Might not be the most visually appealing out there in my opinion, but it represents Captain Falcon and F-Zero to a T. I mean, a guy jumps in his car and commits vehicular manslaughter. Can your main do that? This Final Smash is phenomenal, but not quite enough to be in
Technically, this is the effective top tier portion of the video, and to be honest, some of the Final Smashes in the Great tier could easily be placed in said top tier. However, sectioning this last tier off into just 10 remaining Final Smashes is thematic and exciting, so we're going with this plan instead.
Remember when I said that nobody was gonna do the transform and fly around thing as well as Sonic? Whoops. Okay, Wario Man doesn't fly around, but he can. This is one of the most chaotic transformations out there. Just seeing this goofy bastard put on a superhero costume to launch some of the most batshit attacks in rapid succession. The original Wario Man is an a sugar rush. This man is now flipping and dipping and zipping all around the battlefield, and it is up to your dumb luck to survive. This is unbelievable. The original Donkey Kong 64's Game Over screen has K. Rool sitting nice and cozy as his big laser charges right in front of Donkey Kong Island, only for you to be cock-teased by a Game Over over text and fade to black. But now that the big man is in Smash, he can finally stop cucking around and fulfill his dream to just fire that big laser on that man's face. Interpret that however you like. I didn't grow up with DK64, but I imagine a ton of childhood fantasies have been fulfilled with this awe-inspiring Final Smash. When Sakurai said Final Smashes would be way quicker and confirmed many Final Smashes would be overhauled, it left a ton of wonder for many of the characters not initially revealed in the E3 presentation. But never, and I mean never, would I have expected Yoshi's new Final Smash to call back to a scene in the Melee intro. They could have done anything else with his own series, but nope, they made the 8th best Final Smash of all time. Bless. Look at how they massacred my boy. Giga Bowser was one of many iconic aspects in Melee. Going through adventure mode at a certain difficulty and a certain amount of time to specifically challenge a souped up version of Bowser with a buffed moveset littered with status effects while sporting the most devilishly evil design changes. Sure, the satisfaction of overcoming this titan was enough for most gamer children, but the real reward was waiting for Brawl to come out, where you were finally able to control Giga Bowser for yourself without the use of any cheating devices. Sure, it didn't last super long, but the overwhelming feeling of being the most unstoppable creature on screen is more than enough to make this my personal favorite transformation Final Smash. Anything to make me relive that old Wrath of Giga Bowser machinima. In my opinion, DDD had the best completely new Final Smash going into Ultimate. I said earlier that it's funny how Sakurai almost never references anything in the Kirby series past Superstar, but this is the exception I'm willing to take. The first person shot of the opponent getting pinned to the cage as DDD dons his iconic mask form and spins all around the cage to pummel the opponent? Dare I say I can almost forgive cutting Waddle Dees from his moveset. Almost. Oh wow, I really do enjoy it when characters just trap the one guy to beat the shit out of them as a Final Smash, huh? Well, there is one more I prefer over Omni Slash. When looking at the gaming landscape as a whole, there isn't a more iconic move in the shit-beating genre in Smash. I kinda wish there was a bit more camera work at play, but that implies I even have the right to ask for more. Okay, technically Omni Slash version 5 is a different Final Smash, and I've been very loose with the rules, but this is the only Final Smash to be added on a currently existing character, and it's exclusive to certain palette swaps of said character. But the extra camera angles and the glowy weapons do edge this out a little more than the original Omni Slash for me, so this is the effective number 4.5 placement in this top 10 and a half. Nice job, me. Is All Out Attack a direct copy of the Persona 5 version? Yes, and if it wasn't, it would have been so much worse for it. Really, what nets this so high up is how seamless all the Persona 5 effects are implemented. Seeing it even cut directly to the victory screen if the move KOs in what's also a Persona 5 callback, it shows us that Sakurai and his team were not gonna fuck around with the DLC. Rather, they were gonna fuck around and go crazy. If my sole criteria for ranking these Final Smashes was based solely on spectacle, then Supernova would have been a frame 1 top spot. I mean, it's literally Supernova, but sped up to fit the usual duration of a Final Smash, but not for a second does it feel like they had to cut any corners to rush through the content. Hell, it even acts like the original incarnation to have a random assortment of debuffs when it's all said and done. I guess Negative Zone really never left us, huh? Dare I say, I almost wish this move actually was like 2 minutes long like in the original game. Maybe it would have taken the top spot after all. Regardless, it's my favorite DLC Final Smash, and for some reason I had to go and enjoy 2 others more than it. We've had Final Smashes where the one guy traps the other guy and beats them to shit, but Great Aether is the original shit-beating Final Smash, except not really because that honor goes to Triforce Slash technically, but I've also seen most people say they like this way more, so I'm keeping that in. I appreciate how Ike mixes sword slashes with kicks, truly symbolic of beating the shit out of the other guy. It's all the little things, being sent up to the top of the stage, each hit, the fire effects, Ike screaming Great Aether, the tiny moment of build-up before the final hit where Ike sends himself and the opponent back down to the ground. They all come together to deliver what is, rightfully, one of the most iconic Final Smashes. The only thing that Great Aether did wrong was that it made the mistake of being in the same game as Mega Legends. Yeah, it's a basic white girl opinion to have, but it's also the correct one. Mega Man fans are an oppressed species. They needed something after years and years and years of being promised something cool only for it to be thrown away by Capcom. Mega Man being in Smash was one thing, but his Final Smash implementing the 4 other more prominent versions of him and later Proto Man and Bass to fire a giant rainbow laser made this yet another legendary moment in Smash history. The fact that you can even make a case for this one move and the fan responses to it, forcing Capcom to wake up and enter a somewhat slow and rocky yet apparent uprising to a modern Cap God era, where they even have a slight modicum of understanding as to what fans want from their IPs? Yeah, I don't think another Final Smash has done that, and we can only hope that more companies begin to understand their communities more. Even Nintendo themselves, whether it be because of 5 blue dudes lasering some guy to death, or through other means, I guess.
So, what have we learned here today? Honestly, nothing.